What a time to be alive. We're going through another very weak real estate year, and that's mostly from the perspective of the sellers. However, the silver lining here is that the real estate market is healing by way of affordability is coming back, and I feel that more first-time home buyers are actually having a chance at being able to actually buy real estate, which is a net positive for society. But from a seller's perspective, prices are sliding down, and here's what I think is going to happen over the fall market. We've had now 2022, we had no fall market. 2023, no fall market. 24, no fall market. And 25 is going to be no different. I feel we're going to have a very weak fall market, especially given the performance of the real estate market up to date. Now, obviously, things could change, but I think in 2025, we're going to have our first down year in 3 years, meaning 22, which was the peak year, we ended median GTA price at about $888,000. In 23, it was 907. In 24, it was 930,000, meaning we were kind of creeping back up, relatively flat, but creeping back up. I think 2025, we're actually going to end the year closer to 900,000, meaning whatever gains we had last year, they're going to be wiped out. So it's going to be a flat year or a down year. So likely not much of a fall market. But let's get into the stats and let's kind of look at what's moving, what is not. So if we've learned anything from these graphs over the last few years, at the very least, is look, prices may not be trending to the usual 8% gain that we see every single year, but seasonally, at least we're following the pattern. So the pattern for the last 3 years in particular has been, we got a bit of an uptick in the spring. So we saw that price-wise, but honestly, the spring market was very weak. I mean, probably the worst one in 20 years, right? And then in the summer, we're now below our seasonal norms, but we are following trend. So what I've seen in the last 2 to 3 years, we would expect prices to go up this fall. Chances are we're not going to see prices go up. We're probably going to see a flat line here, maybe a little bit up, maybe a bit of a recovery, but really just going to be an opportunity for those looking to sell to just unload their place at quote unquote stabilized prices rather than chasing the market down. You have to price very aggressively for that. And then going to November, December, if things are status quo, we're probably going to see prices slide back down. And this is why I think prices are going to be a net negative for 2025. Now, as I was looking through the data, I was looking for trends, like what is driving this massive price decrease? And looking throughout different parts of the GTA, there's a few trends that are emerging. I'll show you right now. Dark blue line, detached homes. So as you can see right now, going to the summer, they've been sliding down and they're continuing to slide down. This blue line right here will be your typical townhouse, call it starter home, first time buyer's home, and then condos. So in the city of Toronto, for the most part, detached down, condos continue to trend down. In these townhouses, they're actually stabilizing, or they're a bit on a come up. So, okay, is this an outlier or not? Let's take a look at some other parts of the GTA. Very similar pattern in York region. Detached trending down, townhouses actually going up, and then condos going down. So again, this is an indication to me that cheaper, and when I say cheaper, quote unquote cheaper properties, first-time home buyer properties or move-up buyer properties, let's say you're going from a condo into a townhouse, they're actually trending up, which is very interesting because if these people are getting liquidity from the townhouses, that should translate into detached as well, because obviously anybody from a townhouse is going to be looking for detached. So interesting that it's happening in York region as well as Toronto. Sometimes in Toronto, because there's such big variability between property types, you know, a townhouse is not the same in Scarborough as it is in North York as it is in Etobicoke. So when York region or the suburbs are showing similar trends, it's a little bit more telling because property types are usually more within the same vintage. Like a Markham townhouse is typically your 20-year-old suburban townhouse. They're priced pretty much in line, like commodity priced across the board in Markham, depending where you are. So that's more telling. So this is Markham. Let's take a look at Durham just to see if they're doing the exact same thing. Now, why I like looking at Durham is because it provides probably some of the best value in the GTA, relatively close to get to downtown via GO train. The GO train is relatively quick and prices are cheaper than most of the GTA. So same thing here, detached sliding down, yet townhouses actually on the way up. And you're seeing condos actually also stabilize in Durham. So that's very interesting. Now, there's obviously a lot of chatter about interest rates and whether or not they're going to go down. If you're looking at mortgages right now, I mean, a lot of mortgages and people renewing, you're looking in the high 3s to low 4s, depending on your, whether it's an insured mortgage, not insured, if you're getting fixed, variable, 3-year, 5-year, whatever. But the point is, affordability is there. Now, in terms of probability or a likelihood of another rate decrease on September 17th, so we're at 40% that we're going to get a 25 basis point decrease. 60% that it's probably going to stay the same. And then for October, it's 66% chance that the rates are going to go down if we don't get a decrease in September. So basically, all of this is telling us that we're likely at least one rate cut that's being priced in. Whether or not this is going to change sentiment, I personally don't believe it. Well, however, if nothing bad happens, if we don't have much in the way of bad news going forward, it may actually change sentiment. Obviously, right now the big discussion is unemployment. We're not doing so well, especially outside of the GTA. Now, one of the most common questions I get usually from sellers is in terms of timing when they should sell, right? And it's no secret, the best times to sell typically April, May, September, October. This is when you have the most amount of liquidity. This is where median prices are the highest. However, a lot of times people are like, well, should I sell this fall? Should I wait until next spring? What should I do? And the short answer to that is I don't know. Really, trying to time the market for this type of thing, it's extremely difficult. If you're selling and buying, I mean, you're just really looking at the delta, because if you're getting less money for your house, in theory, you should be spending less money for whatever you're purchasing. It should be working out. But that, doesn't always work. I have clients that are selling from areas that are underperforming right now, trying to move to areas that are doing well. So obviously that spread doesn't work. That being said, typically, if call it our crash year was 2022 or the beginning of 2022, February, generally after a big run up like in the 90s, it typically takes in the GTA about 6 to 7 years for prices to stabilize, or at least call it officially a bottom. So we're kind of in year 3 going to year 4. Will next year be better for selling? I really don't know. My biggest concern is this illiquidity. So we continue to do a lot less by way of deal flow. So typically if we sell 7,600 homes in the GTA, right now we're doing about 5,200. And this trend has been ongoing for a while now. So there are a lot of people looking to sell, and everybody's kind of waiting. At least the people that can afford to wait, they're waiting. So when will this time come when it's going to be a good time to sell? I really don't know, because even if the market does improve marginally, does that mean we're going to get a lot more listings, which is still going to just kind of suppress price appreciation? That's potential. So I can't answer that question, but we are going to have another weak fall market, and I can say that with high degree of confidence at this point. And is next spring going to be any better? Hard to say. I don't know, but every seller should look at their situation very much on an individual level. Forget the market as a whole. If you're in an area where there's little competition, there isn't much inventory, you're still better off trying to list in September, October, April, May, when typically we have good activity, relatively speaking, to the rest of the months, and take your shot. If there's a lot of inventory and the market is not so hot, in that case, you probably should sit still, because you're just going to be racing to the bottom with everybody else. And here's the issue at hand. Obviously, active listings are currently well above seasonal norms. So if we typically have, call it just under 17,000 active listings for the month of August, we're at 27,000, and we peaked out at just under 32. So active inventory is high. You got to remember, a lot of this is condos, because the downtown condo situation has not improved and continues to actually just get worse. We'll find out what happens with the return to work mandates from the government and the banks. Maybe that will improve it. Don't know. However, from a listing perspective, if you're thinking about listing, it really will come down to your individual area. So I would take these general stats as a grain of salt, because they're not very representative if you're looking to sell a detached house somewhere in Markham or in East York or something like that, right? So you really have to look at your specific area. But to summarize, fall market likely going to be weak. It still could be a decent time to try to sell your house, because the big issue is we simply don't have clear line of sight on what's going to happen next spring market. And, a lot of people have been waiting from 23 to sell, and then looking back, 23, parts of 23, parts of 24 were actually not that bad of a time to list and sell, given what's happening with the market now. So if your holding period is less than 2 years, you really have to assess timing now. If you can hang on to your house for more than 2 years, then maybe you can weather the storm. I hope you enjoyed the stats, and I'll see you in the next one.